Hey everybody, this is Brett with Indie Comics Dispatch and broadcasting from an undisclosed location deep within the Milky Way galaxy. This is broadcast from the Dispatch.
If you got a story and you want the world to know it, if you think you ready and you ain't afraid to show it, throw your hands up high, yeah, we might stand out. We always representing cause that's what it's all about. We always representing cause that's what it's all about. And if you love some indie comics, let me hear you shout. Like, just stay tuned, what's the story? Had to get that every time a brand new indie comic from the Dispatch.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another Thursday night with broadcast from the Dispatch. I am Brett, I'm your host this evening, and I gotta apologize. We had some not expected scheduling conflicts, but we weren't here last week with Subsume Media because just some unexpected scheduling conflicts came up. We did our best to try to work it out, and it just didn't happen. So I'm sorry. We did have a live schedule for last week, and it just didn't happen. But we're going to get Subsume Media rescheduled and back on sometime soon, as soon as we can, because we got a pretty full schedule for like the rest of the year. But we're going to try to work Subsume in December. So check Subsume out though. If you don't know anything about their stuff, they got some really cool stuff and really awesome projects. Not just comics too; they do other stuff. And so check them out. Really cool company, some really cool people, and we'll have them back on soon, real soon. Then tonight we were going to have a totally different guest on too, but we had a kind of reshuffle, and I had somebody pop up in my inbox. It never hurts reaching out, right? Somebody popped up in my inbox, David, and was like, "Hey, any chance I can be on your show?" And I was like, we're pretty booked. And then I got this message saying that our guest for this week wasn't going to be able to do it. And so we have a completely different show, and I love it because I've loved Brandon Calloway's books. He writes a Black Spartan manga, and then David Greene has a book that he's described as Black Amazons. That's not the name, but that's how he describes it. So we'll get them on in just a second. I gotta say, I'm exhausted. We just finished a Wingless Comics Kickstarter, and that was the most draggingest Kickstarter ever. So I'm anxious to talk to these guys too, who both have active Kickstarters, and we'll drop those links in the comment sections in just a little bit. Anyway, without any further ado, let's get to tonight's guests. First up, just because in alphabetical order his name comes first, Brandon Calloway is the writer and creator of Black Spartans. He describes himself as a huge anime fan. He's also the CEO of a nonprofit in Kansas City that fights for racial equality. Brandon, welcome.
Hey, what's up, Brett? Thank you for having me.
No problem. No problem. And then this is your first time on broadcast, but you took place in Indie Comic Throwdown before.
Yep.
And so you're in the ICD family, as it were, because you've been on before. So welcome officially, though, to broadcast. I love having you here.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I had a blast with Brian and Michael and the when we did the chat and draw for the Indie Comic Throwdown, and so happy to be here talking to you, and we'll talk a little bit about Black Spartans and
yeah.
Talk about the Black Amazons as well.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think this is going to be a really fun show. And then the reason we're here, really, because he reached out and it worked, right? Yeah. David Greene is a creator at Limelight Comics who wrote The Captivating Light. He also owns 2 tech startup companies, and he is now writing the series Conquered Crowns. David, welcome.
Thank you. First, I want to say that is an awesome intro.
Thanks.
And second, I like to say, yes. I was like, wow. And second, I would like to say thank you for having me on the show. And everything seemed to line up because first it went from, like you said, you weren't sure who was going to be on the show to exactly both Brandon and I lining up to be on the show. So
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome, and I just love it when things line up like that because I've been watching Brandon's book since he was on the Indie Comic Throwdown. I thought, man, we got to figure out a time with like a theme that this just fits to get him on. And then you reached out, and then my other guest canceled, and I was like, perfect. It's amazing. Quentin Rushing, I just got back from a Comic-Con covering it for Indie Comics Dispatch. He said, "Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Quentin."
What's up, Brittany?
If you're out there watching this, we take questions. We're going to dig in a minute here, but feel free to drop questions whenever you want. We try to keep the show to about an hour because that's better for the podcast listeners. But hey, drop your questions and we'll get to as many as we can. And I'm going to start off with just saying, gentlemen, welcome again. And first and foremost, what's your origin story? How did you become a comic creator? David, since you were last on the screen, we'll let you start.
Okay, so I've read comics in my youth, and over the years, I didn't really read comics again until basically maybe some years ago. So I've taken a long hiatus in reading comics from childhood to adulthood, and I'm just now getting back into it more so with indie comics. And so that's kind of been my origin of getting into the comic scene. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I took a similar hiatus too, like reading comics as a kid, and then somewhere in high school kind of dropped off. And then took a hiatus, had kids, got married, and then got back into it. And I love that. I love that that comics is one of those things that you can find your way back into at any age, I feel like.
Right. But what's funny is I read the comics when I was younger. Then I built that hiatus, that time period. I drew. I used to draw all the way up until high school, and then I stopped. And so now it's like I wish I kept it going because now I have to pay someone to do it.
And that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Right.
So Brandon, what's your origin story?
Yeah. So I mean, I read a little bit of comics when I was younger, but I didn't really get into it. I'm in my early 30s now, so I didn't get into it until like late 20s. But the whole time, I mean, I've been, huge fan of just like the Marvel, DC, but really of anime, right? Like I'm a huge anime fan. Love One Piece, the Yu Yu Hakusho, just like all the traditional, typical mainstream stuff. Just I'm a huge anime fan, and that got me into manga. Specifically, like I couldn't wait for One. I mean, One Piece is super long. If either one of you know anything about how long One Piece is, and I finally got caught up on it, and I was like, oh man, I really want to know like what's going on still. And so I started reading the manga, and me and my friend one day, we were just talking about how cool it would be if we just like created our own thing. And I'm the kind of dude that when I get an idea, like I'm on that idea. And so I started looking into it. I was like, man, this is extremely doable. Like extremely doable. And it kind of demystified this whole thing of like I can't create. I don't know what I'm doing. And so from there, I mean, I just did research on, I watched this whole series about how to write a comic, and then did all this, backstory building. So it took me about 2 years to get it, where I really wanted it. But I mean, that's the longer version. But the short version is that, me and my buddy was talking about it, and I dove in and figured out how to do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So you both of you learning how to make comics, and we'll talk a little bit about this later too. But what was surprising to you? What was the hardest part that you kind of came across when learning to make your own comic? What took you by surprise?
So I am a really like procedural person. And I was like, oh, there's so many people out there creating comics. There has to be like a how to kind of thing. Well, then when you start diving into and figuring out how to do it, like how to write a script, and like there's no real set there's no real set way and how to do it. And so that kind of it took me for a surprise and intimidated me a little bit because I'm like, I gotta figure out like my own form or way of how to do this thing. But then it kind of alleviated me because there's no right way, there's no wrong way. And so I could really come up with a format and a procedure that was comfortable for me, that worked for my, my brain, my personality, and all that, and go with it. So I really expected it to be like, oh, well, do this and this and this and this and this.
And it's not, is it?
No,
Everybody does their own thing.
Yeah.
David, what surprised you?
So I'm similar to Brandon. My friend Wayne, co-founder Wayman and I of Limelight Comics. We started off, watching movies, Marvel movies, and then we started breaking down characters. And we said, it's almost like the what if. And we was like, well, what if, like, you took the powers of such and such and you added them there. What do you think you would get? What's his 5 minutes? Come up with a backstory. So we started off with like little drills and exercises like that. And then we say, just like Brandon, I said, you know what, this is doable. I think we can create a character and then our first comic. And so then I started getting into looking up how to actually create a comic. And like you said, there's no one set way. And the way my mind thinks is maybe different from the next person. So I kind of took bits and pieces a little bit from so many different places and molded it around my thought process. I think I kind of developed a bad habit as well, because now I like to pace back and forth while thinking. And that's where my best ideas come from. So
we can't argue with that. That's where your best ideas come from. Then, I mean, it's not a bad habit.
Right. Until sometimes when I'm talking on the phone with people or when I'm on meetings like this, it's like, oh man, I need to get up and walk for a second.
Want to say hi to Jamal Hardy, who's in the Instagram chat. Eniad, JL Johnson, Born Again Thugs is in the Instagram chat. And then this question came up, and we'll just jump into it real quick. Actually, I'm going to hold that question for just a second. So first, tell us about your projects, because I'm so interested to hear more about particularly your project, David, since I already know a little bit about Brandon's. But Brandon, I'm always interested to go deeper. So David, why don't you start about Conquered Crowns?
So Conquered Crowns, it actually originally started with this character that kind of was a spinoff of Aquaman. And I said, well, look, let me do my version of Aquaman. And I had him in Atlantis. I had him, you might as well say he was like a spin image of Aquaman, but just different in look. And I say, you know what, this is not going to work because he's just going to be known as an Aquaman. Now, don't get me wrong, people will still refer to him as some type of Aquaman, but I moved him out of Atlantis, moved him to his own underworld city, gave him this real in-depth backstory based off of someone in historical history. I mean, someone in history. Then the Wonder Woman will be dropped, and I said, I like Wonder Woman, and I wanted to do my take on Amazon. So those two characters end up lining up, and I say, you know what? Let me take them out of my main universe with all the other characters and let them just be a Game of Thrones meets Black Panther type of storyline. And so the question came up of what if 7 of the baddest African queens in history were on a team, an Amazon team, and that's where I went in and pulled out, just researched different 7 African queens in history and molded these characters behind these different queens.
That's really cool. So there is some history, somewhat, kind of that plays into this.
Correct. Yeah.
That's really cool.
The history and one of the main things, because when you do historical things, people will be like, "That's not right." This is what happened, and so I wanted to avoid a lot of those questions, and I made it into a fantasy. And pretty much the stories and different stories, characters, items, elements, and things you can refer back to them in history, like almost like Game of Thrones.
Very cool.
So,
Very cool. Brandon, tell us a little bit about Black Spartans manga.
Yeah, and so uh, I spent a lot of time on world building with Black Spartans because again, favorite thing is One Piece. The thing I like the most about One Piece is that you could pick up the Straw Hat crew and kind of take them completely out of it, and the whole story would still go on. Like there's still this whole race to find the One Piece. There's still many different crews that have some really interesting stories and interactions. And so the way I describe Black Spartans is One Piece meets Bleach meets The Witcher. And so it's a world full of like mythical creatures and monsters and demons, and then there are these guilds, these groups of people called hunters, and they go from one city to the next city to the next city, and they get paid to handle whatever mythical creature is plaguing that city that day. And so there's a whole network of hunter guilds. The Black Spartans is our main characters. So Balbino is the captain of the Black Spartans. He is setting out on his journey to build the strongest hunter guild, and kind of rebuild the honor of the Spartan name from his father's death, which his dad was part of another hunter guild called the Spartans. And so that's kind of where a little bit of where the Black Spartans names come from. But then the overarching theme is that I got a race of demon in there called the Oni. I'm a huge fan of Japanese lore, and so there's the Oni are in there, and they're trying to unite the all of these different types of demon clans to really overtake the whole society, and say that humans shouldn't be the people or shouldn't be the ones that are really the prevalent race, and the demons should be the ones that are the prevalent race. And I haven't said this before, but about all of the hunters have like a celestial spirit where they get their power from, and Balbino's celestial spirit, the main character, is a demon, is a demonic spirit. And so while him and his crew are going through this journey, he eventually has to make the decision about because he's a human, but his celestial spirit power is demonic. And so there's appeals from both sides, from the humans like, hey, you human, we don't need the demons to rule, and then there's appeals from the demonic side that his celestial spirit that he is intertwined with and is reborn with over and over and over is demonic. And so he really is. There could be an argument made that he's not really human. He's demonic. Right. So there's that in there too. So it's a really cool. I mean, obviously I'm biased because I wrote it. So it's a really cool story with a little bit of humor, a whole lot of action, and some deep world building that will it'll take you on a long ride. I got 200 chapters planned out already.
Wow. That was going to be the question I was going to ask you guys, how far you have your story planned out.
Yeah.
200 chapters. Wow.
Yep. So take you on a long, exciting ride to,
So it really is a manga then.
Huh? You said what?
It really is a manga because it's just going to go on.
It really is. It really is a manga. And it's the funny thing, 200, it's like Demon Slayer is like 200 chapters, and that's not considered long at all. One Piece just hit 1,028.
Oh wow.
Wow. So I say One Piece is my motivator, but really, right. I mean, it's nowhere near that long. But that's the story, the real story of Black Spartans.
That's awesome. I'm going to pull up. I kind of scroll through your Kickstarter. I'm pulling up David's right now too, because one thing I love about both of your projects is the art that you guys have. You both have phenomenal art. David, tell me a little bit about your artist.
So Mauricio Alvarez is based out of Mexico. I'm not sure where I met him. He just popped up in my inbox. Uh, I probably posted on one of the groups that I'm connected to, and I'm glad I met him because he carries out the vision that I really want. I give him a script. And what I like to do is I like to not only give him a script, I like having control. So I'll do the panels, the layouts. I'll give a lot of references, and so he'll sketch it, give it to me, and oh no, that's not it. I'll print it out, I'll draw over it, send it back, and that's the result of this working relationship between me and him. We've probably been working on it the last 2 months, and we are 6 pages in. Um, so, and just to, and like Brandon said, I've done some really deep world building on the Kickstarter. You'll also find the map of where the women are right now, and the whole premise behind this chapter one. Book one is just chapter one. Is they are put under their Nasera village, which you see right next to the Ajaka kingdom. The Ajaka kingdom put the Nasera village under tribute. And so the king didn't want to comply. I mean, the chief didn't want to comply. And so therefore he was exiled, and their village was taken over. So these 7 women band together, some who already knew each other, and they decided to go retrieve their chief in order to bring him back and win their village back and go from a village to a kingdom. So
very cool. And Brandon, to give us a sneak or a little bit about your artist, and in particular your colorist, if it's not the same person, because your color is awesome.
Yeah, so I actually work with Macchiato Studios.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So it's a whole team of guys. I mean, there's it's two main guys, but there's like they have a whole team of people. So I honestly I don't know the name of the individual colors because these guys they're so great. You know, cause like David said, I'm a huge control guy too. And so I write out my script panel by panel, you know, all of the details in the panel that I want, and I shoot it over to them, and they do a good job of making sure. I mean, they before they even get started, they get back to me and say, hey, you know, is this what you meant, or is this what you meant? And I realized like, oh man, I really wasn't clear in that, and so. And then they'll, you know, send it over to me, and most of the time they send it over to me. Like, man, that's great. That's exactly what I was thinking. Or I might have one little tweak here and there, but you know, they send me the storyboards, and then they send me the you know, line art, then they send the color, and then they do the lettering. And so I know like they have a few different people, like they have different people working on their team that, you know, will do the coloring and then do the lettering. So I can't say, you know, exactly who it is, but Macchiato Studios as a whole,
they do great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they are small indie guys, but like they work like a big professional studio. So, you know, not even a shameless plug for Macchiato. If you got a project that you're trying to bring to life, hit them, but they will make it. They'll make it. And not only do they make it happen, like they, if they really, if I'm really like, oh nah, man, I don't like the way that look. They ain't got no problem with, you know, changing it up and making it like, I mean, their goal really is to bring your stuff to life. I know cool. I sound like they paid me to come on here.
Yeah. No, they are a top-notch studio. They really are. We recently did a review of their main series Macchiato on IndieComicsDispatch.com, and I mean, it just earned such great praise from our reviewer. I mean, they're a great studio.
Yeah,
they're great.
Yeah,
got a couple. Go ahead. What? I'm sorry.
Well, no, I'm just saying they are dope.
Yeah. Got a couple things on Instagram. Royal House Comics. Hey, Royal House. Commented Black Spartan is fire. David Greene is a super talented creator. And then comment. I'm sorry. I don't. Pre-dice freezy. I'm saying that wrong. I know that's not how you say it. But that's okay. It says Aquaman or not, every character that is made is always going to be compared to someone as long as the characteristic and background and personality is unique and his own. That's all that matters. And then Cyclone Studio says pacing while writing also works for me. And then there's a comment earlier. I think I know the answer to this, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Do you guys use fictional buildings in your comics?
What do you mean fictional buildings?
I think just like fake buildings. I don't know if they want to.
Because like all of my
because you guys are kind of back in the day, right? I mean, so like probably all your buildings are fictional because you're not basing it off of a city here and now. I'm assuming.
Right. Yeah. I mean, my entire world is fictional.
Yeah. Brian Lambert commented, "You suck at saying names, Brett Hillesheim," and I do. He's right at that. Actually. Brian. Why do you using my last name, Brian, like you're my mom? I'm sorry, David. Go ahead.
So what I like to do is I'll research like in the Kickstarter, you'll see that they're in this village, and that's part of the Nox civilization. So what I did, I researched their civilization, what buildings look like, and then I tried to merge something of today and of their civilization. Like I laid out a floor plan for the artist because we're going to be in that village for a while, and so I put a bar under there. Anything that we kind of do today and something that possibly could have happened back then, I merged those two, and so I made like a small inn or a hotel with a bar underneath. But when you talk about like the cups and stuff, it's actually a cup from their civilization that they made back in the day.
I love that. Actually. That does show that pre-thought, that foreplanning that you're talking about, that world building to make sure that that's all taken care of before you go far at all. So you both have campaigns right now. I've dropped both the links in the comment sections of YouTube and Facebook. If you're on Instagram, look these gentlemen up. Their Instagram profiles. We'll let them shout that out in just a little bit. But I'm sure that you can find their Kickstarter just by searching their projects on Kickstarter too, Conquered Crowns or Black Spartans. It'll be very easy. But tell us about your campaign. What rewards can people score? What are you most excited about offering up as part of this campaign? Let's talk Kickstarter for a minute.
Yeah, I'll dive in and go first.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I have a lot of. I feel like I got 9 different reward tiers, and so everything from just the basic digital copy of the comic all the way to being a back character, or like a background character, or getting yourself drawn up as part of a hunter guild in one of the future chapters. But I think the thing that I'm most excited about is the tier where I partnered with a couple of other creators, and so Bold Saga, Boy Beast, and then Legacy of the View. Like all of those guys, all of those creators, they're great guys, and I talked to them about doing a partner thing where you can, if you back one of their future Kickstarters, you'll get a copy of Black Spartans.
Nice.
And so if you back Black Spartans Chapter 2 at that reward tier or above, then you'll get some of those. You'll get those 3 the first chapters of those stories as well. And I don't know. I think that's cool because there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of really, really great indie creators making all kinds of stories, and so at that tier you can see some real diverse storytelling, and kind of it's an affordable tier, and you can sit down and get lost in a couple of 100 pages of some indie content.
Yeah, and I love that too, the sharing, because it really adds to, some people are just afraid to back an indie book because they just don't know what they're going to get. And if they just get one 22-page book for like $12 or whatever, like what's the point?
Right.
But adding that collaboration between other indie creators and making sure that your backers get lots of content for their 12, $15 or whatever it's amazing. That's really cool. And you listed some really cool creators there that people can get. So I love that. I just got my rewards from Specs Kickstarter in the mail,
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
last week. Yeah. David, tell us about your rewards.
Yeah. I actually got the specs book too.
Did you?
I love it. Yeah. So I took the same path. I seen somebody else doing it, and I said, "Oh, why are they doing that?" And then, someone explained to me the purpose behind it, and so just from the donation tier, you'll get a bundle of comics, and then in each tier after that, you get a different set of in other indie comic publishers as well. Um, my tiers mainly focus on the PDF version, the physical comic version, T-shirts, pins, not pins, T-shirts, posters. Let me see what else. Uh, Stickers, some small things like that. But when you go up higher in tier, there's a special book that I made called the Malaje, which is Arabic for journal, and it's a story of the untold history of the known world. Whatever you see now in that book is the untold history of whatever you see in that book.
That's really cool.
With the posters, you'll get 3 different Conquered Crown posters. You get my my Aquaman, which is called, his name is Tidal, like Tidal. You get an Amazon poster, and then you'll get an Arabic Riders poster. And that's all in the Kickstarter. And then in another tier, you have shirt options, which is a Conquered Crown design on the shirt.
Nice.
And that design is also in the shirt. Now, in the you also get a collector's edition box with the front cover printed on it as well.
Oh, cool.
And then I made 2 tiers for retailers, and in that they get the tabletop box, and I think about maybe 10 to 25 comics and 50 stickers and stuff like that.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. Those retailer tiers can be very helpful. I've noticed in some campaigns. Some campaigns nobody picks up on it, but some campaigns they do quite well.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. That's really cool. So how's the Kickstarter going? I'll say that I've noticed a Kickstarter slowdown among campaigns, whereas like 2020 and early 2021, I mean, you could just put just about anything on Kickstarter and it would make a few $1,000s. And I feel like that time is kind of past. So what are you guys experiencing so far with your launches?
I'm experiencing definitely have to continuously post, put in work because it's great content. And I'm halfway there, even though I'm trying to raise 2,700. I put it at 500. And so yeah, we're halfway to the goal, but our goal is actually 2,700.
Okay. Brandon?
Yeah. I got some really good support at the beginning of it, and then part of it is me having to make sure that again I'm being consistent and getting out there and pushing it to people, and so I'm a little bit over halfway to my goal, and I feel like I feel like I'm getting some pretty good support on it.
Awesome.
I also recognize that I've been in this for a year, but I haven't put in, when it comes to audience building. I put in a good amount of work when it comes to audience building, but still not to like I haven't done the amount of work that like Wingless has done, or Ace Blade, or Concreteless. So I don't expect to see the kind of numbers that they get on some of their stuff. So I I appreciate any of the support that I get on it. And I don't know, I feel like this one is going fairly well. It definitely is moving slower than my first one. So that what you said about early 22 or 2020, early 2021, I'm definitely feeling that. But it's moving along, and I'm when I launched like 7 days ago.
Yeah.
So it's trending in a real positive direction for me.
Very good. Very good. So, excuse me for a second. Sorry.
And you said it's chapter 2, Brandon, right?
Yep, chapter 2.
Okay.
So that's one thing I was going to ask is, David, this is your first campaign, right?
Well, for this book, yes.
Okay.
The other 2, I did the captivating. I did 3 for Captivating Light, and they were successful. Except for actually, I did 4. The 4th one was not successful. Oh, man. And I did the most work on that one. I had like the video, I had actors and all that stuff. And,
wow.
Yeah.
We'll relaunch that at some point.
Yeah.
So what advice for the people out there who maybe haven't done a Kickstarter yet, as people who have at least more than one under your belts, what advice would you give to somebody setting up their first Kickstarter?
Ooh.
I mean, I said reach out to people, network. Like, I know the readers obviously are the audience, but other creators are seem like competition, but they really not, right? Mm-hmm. Like when Specs launched his, everybody was supporting him. Like we want each other to win, and so don't come in and look at other people doing stuff as like, oh man, if Ace Blade does good, then people ain't gonna have any money to support mine. Or if Brett does good, then people ain't gonna have any money to support mine. Like the indie creators really. I mean, I have learned we really are in this together. And at least, and I could be naive, but I really feel the genuineness from everybody that I've connected with, and really want each other to succeed. So reach out to other creators, because it's a good way to help get you a boost in your audience early on.
David?
I would say, definitely Brandon is correct, but we're in it all together, and we should be able to not see each other as competition, but we be able to use each other and collaborate with each other. And we pretty much can use the same crowds and things like that. The other advice I would give them is, before you go to Kickstarter, make sure that you have your P's and Q's straight with your story. And they're like, just in your world building, your character building, there are always like 6 or 7 questions I go through when I'm designing or building my main characters. And things like that, they definitely need to be tightened up before you go to Kickstarter, story-wise.
Yeah. Great advice, guys. Wonderful advice. If you're out there watching, you're thinking about launching a Kickstarter, pay attention, because that was some solid advice right there. So looking at indie comics as a whole right now, what is one indie comic trend that you really like? Like for me, going back to Kickstarters for a minute, I see more people doing number of backers to release stretch goals at, and I actually really like that, because I think it shows value. We did it this time with Wingless, and I think it shows value for the individual supporting, no matter what dollars they put behind your campaign. The fact that anybody can kind of help you out in that regard. It doesn't matter if you're paying for $200 cameo or whatever. You backed, you matter. And I like that people are doing that. What are some trends that you guys see that you really like?
Yeah. one of on the same thing with Kickstarter. I saw one a while ago, and it was, I think it was Dope Girl Comics.
Mhm.
And like she did a collaborative Kickstarter with somebody, like it,
Yep.
and so
Bristol
even
Media.
right, even
Yep.
for, because like mine is kind of collaborative. You can get some other people's digital books, but those are like books that they've already had successful Kickstarters for, and they did, it was a tandem Kickstarter.
Mhm.
And I've seen a couple of those, where they like it's like they're fully in this, making chapter 2 of my book and chapter 2 of this book. I like that idea, and I've been thinking about some potential people that I could do that with, because as far as audience building, you double your chances, right?
Yeah.
You,
Right.
I mean, you double the amount of money you need. Also,
Right.
the financial part of that, has to be really, really, really solid.
Mhm.
Like you can't just throw out a random number, because then
No.
I hit that number, and you're like, oh well, I need X amount, and I need X. So
Mhm.
so you got to be a solid plan. But I really like that strategy. I think it's great for the creators, but I also think it's really great for the readers and the fans,
Mhm.
because I mean, no matter what, no matter how much somebody loves one project, people always want more content. They
Yeah.
want to find other things that they like as much as they like their favorite thing already.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a win for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. David?
To be honest, I like the whole Kickstarter thing, period, because um, let's say a creator's on there and he's able to create as many books as he wants. If he wants to do 4 that year, he can do 4 that year. But also, like Brandon said, the collaboration, and there's room for other opportunities of creating something with other collaborators. Like you said, chapter 2 of book 2, or whatever, chapter 2, book 2, in two separate Kickstarters, but yet they're still together. So,
Mhm.
I love that, and the fact that you retain, it's yours. You know,
Yeah.
everything is yours. The rights to everything, all that's
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah. 'Cause there's been a ton of discussion about that with working for one of the big 2 lately.
Hmm.
And we'll just leave that alone. Um, what is a trend that you don't like? Like, without calling anybody out, but, like, what's a trend that you kind of don't like about, indie comics? Trying to think of one for me, but my mind just totally went blank just now.
I would say it goes back to what I said earlier, not making sure that you fully thought out what you're doing. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, and it just looks like a campaign was just put together, in a few minutes, and something's up there, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'll say so. My brain came back to me when you said that. Not put like, um, I say this a lot, but it's because people need to hear it. Get an editor,
Mhm.
even if it's just a friend who's good at spotting misspellings or grammar errors. Like, you don't have to necessarily pay. Just get a second set of eyes on that script before you get it lettered. Um,
Right.
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
Brandon.
like I told you, I'm real procedural,
Hmm.
and I set up a procedure where my wife is not an anime, not a comic book. She's not a fan, but no matter what, she reads up. She has to read all of my scripts, and she knows that's the rule, because I need her set of eyes, and then I got a friend where I got his set of eyes on it before they even go to macchiato. Like
Yep.
that literally every script, every script I write. But I can't. I mean, I wouldn't call it a huge trend. Uh, but I noticed some creators really don't like comparison. Like so when I say it's like, oh, One Piece meets Bleach meets the Witcher, or
Hmm.
uh and Dave, you had a good one about yours too, like Black Panther. Oh, Black Panther and Game
Game of
Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you'll say stuff like that to people, and they're like, "Oh, don't do that. Don't compare yourself to these other things. You need to stand out." And I think that is a really short-sighted thing to do, because when you said Black Panther and Game of Thrones, I said, "Oh man, I love both of those. I want to know more about that." In that one short sentence. So I think that there are creators that are unnecessarily handicapping themselves just because they want to they want to feel more niche than they are. Like, oh, my stuff is nothing like that, but it kind of is though. So
I couldn't agree with you more, Brandon. and you're right. Like when David said that too, I was like, yeah, that sounds really cool. Like that sounds up my alley. And so I do think like when you can give somebody a point of comparison, it's not saying your project is exactly like that.
Right.
But it just gives people a point of comparison to find something that they like. And so, yeah, I totally agree with you. Peta Comics, Peter from Peta Comics says, but what if you hire editors and at the end of the day, I'm assuming there's more coming from there. You still see errors. I mean, yeah, then I would totally ask for some money back.
Yeah, for real.
Totally. Because that's a business transaction there. And I would not stand for it, Peter. And then just saying hi to a couple people. Headshake is in the Instagram comments. Lionheart series, and then Peta's there also dropping some comments saying hey. Dan Schmidt says, "What are your thoughts on digital comics versus printed?" I have my thoughts. I think both are great, but what do you guys prefer?
I like both of them. I think they complement each other. There's sometimes I like digital. I can actually zoom in on digital. I can't do it on the physical product. Like, there's sometimes I just want to zoom in to see more of what's going on. And, I can only hold the book up and see it for so much with the physical, but that's just one thing. I love both. I love the feel of the physical.
Yeah.
And the richness and the colors. And
yeah. So answering it from the consumer standpoint, and then from the business standpoint is a little bit different, because so like me with my I read a lot of manga, and I read all of that digital because it's just so much of it, and I don't want to have a whole nother library in my room for all of this stuff that I read. So when it's a lot of content, and even like Concrete Comics, like they got a lot of stuff too. Like in the Concrete universe, they got a lot of stuff. And so when it's a whole lot of it, I like to have it digital, just because it's easier to storage and space wise. But if I can get a physical book, I do, because humans, we busy, and having that actual physical book there reminds me to read it.
Yeah.
And so there's that from the consumer standpoint. So if I can get it physical, I prefer it physical. If it's a whole bunch of content, I gotta get it digital. But from a creator standpoint, you kind of got to do both. I feel like you do, because if like there are a lot of people out there that really, really, really love those physical copies. I mean, I did a little. I analyzed like 10 or 15 different Kickstarters, and I looked at like what is the tier that people bought the most of, what's the tier people bought the least of. And almost every Kickstarter, the physical copies was the tier that people got the most of. So like people love those physical books. But from a business standpoint, like you have to get you kind of have to get that digital copy to send it to the printer anyway. And so if you have it already, and you got if you have it and you're not selling it, it's kind of crazy, because
there's no production cost for it. It's already produced.
It's all profit.
Yep.
And then especially I noticed a lot of people, like I use a Wix website, and so it's a one-time setup, and Now, as many, I can have 1,000 people go and buy it right now. I don't have to do anything. It just they click pay and the website sends it to them. So from a creator standpoint, like you kind of got to do both.
Dale says, but physical isn't lost when the computer crashes. That's why all mine are stored in the cloud, Dale. But you're right. That was a worry for a long time. I as a consumer love physical. I will back every time at a physical level. I used to do digital, and like you said, Brandon, if it's not sitting there, it doesn't call to me to remind me to read it, and
Right.
it just there's so much that I wasn't reading. Peter from Petacomics says, do y'all think print will go out in the future? I don't, and I think we had Comics Wellspring on a few weeks back, and I mean they're doing more and more print business, so I don't see print going anywhere, especially with comics, the collectability of comics, even indie comics. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Just from this point of view, my eyes need a rest from the computer a lot of times because I'm on it so much, and that's where the book definitely comes in hand as well.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like getting that actual physical copy of this thing that I created and put together was a whole like that was a whole moment. And and I can't imagine that I'm the only one. So I don't think the physical copies are going out of style or will stop being produced.
No, I totally
anytime soon, if ever.
Yeah, and especially with the speed, I think we're going to see more physical sales, particularly from indie comics, with the streaming services picking up indie titles to turn into shows and movies. I think those early physical copies of those indie titles will be extremely collectible, and I think that'll fuel the indie print market personally. So let's switch, because we are, believe it or not, I just looked at the clock. We're getting close to an hour, and so this time has just flown by. So let's you already gave advice for you maybe first Kickstarter. What about somebody who's out there who hasn't created their comic yet? They're sitting there, they have an idea. What's one piece of actionable advice that you would give to that person?
I would like to give them these things right here, and I'll make it quick. Decide whether what you're writing is story driven or plot driven, and then answer these 6 questions. Who are these characters? What do they want? Why do they want it? How do they go about getting it? What stops them? And what are the consequences? And you write the internal and external conflict of those. And that helps for good story building. And you can even do that for your world too.
Yeah.
I love it.
I would say create an outline and put pen to paper. And this worked for me. So not saying that just because it worked for me, it'll work for everybody. But I gave myself. I said, all right, I'm gonna take this first, 3 weeks and or the first 4 weeks and work on just work on world building, and then I'm gonna work on build it this 2 weeks and build them. Actually, no, I did a magic system first. So work this first 4 weeks, build up my magic system. Then take this next time, just focus on world building, and then I'm gonna focus on building out some of the character. And so like really laying that timeline out for yourself. Is sticking to it, putting pen to paper. It'll give yourself some structure, some accountability. If you are ahead of schedule, if you're behind schedule, if you're on track, and it helps you get to the end goal of actually getting it done. Get to the fun part of actually being able to write the script. The whole thing is fun, but when you start writing that script and start seeing the characters, that'll.
I love that. That's some great advice right there. Great advice from both of you guys. And very actionable too, I might say, because so many people just say, just do it, which is true. Like, just stop waiting and do it. But again, that's why I added that word actionable to this question when I asked creators, because Just do it doesn't tell people where to start. And both of those pieces of advice are great for telling people how to start and where to start. I love it. So who are people that you're following that you think other people should be following? Like who give some shout outs?
I follow Avid Comic, Sovereign Verse.
Yeah.
And I don't want to name. I can't remember everybody's name, but Specs, Wingless Comics. I just bought a book from Nightfall, and it's a bunch of other stuff I have in my Kickstarters. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So for me, I'm gonna say Royal House Comics. They got some dope stuff. That's gonna be coming out. They got some real dope stuff. Akachi Comics, and so Matt Jones, he got Boy Beast with Akachi Comics, and that's really dope. And he also has goodness, not the Last Messiah, I can't remember.
Yeah, something with Messiah in it. You're totally
right. Yeah. So Matt Jones and Specs, and I know I said it a lot, but Concrete, like to me, Concrete is like the closest thing to an indie like Marvel or DC. They move it, and that's something I feel like everybody should be on because it's good quality content and it's a lot of it. And then Macchiato. So not only are like Macchiato Studios is dope.
Brian got us.
Extraordinary Messiah. There you go, Brian. Shout out to Brian. But like now Macchiato Studios are dope when it comes to bringing your story to life. But their story, Macchiato, like they got 2 volumes of it, and everybody should read it. It's dope. It is magnificent.
Very cool. So give people where they can find your. Let's do this. Let's do a quick elevator pitch for your project because you both have projects on Kickstarter right now, and then tell people how to find you.
Okay, so what if 7 of the baddest African queens in history were on a team and conquered crowns? And you can find me at Limelight Comics, Instagram, Facebook, even on Kickstarter, Limelight Comics, Amazon.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's what's up. So Black Spartans manga, like I said, it's One Piece meets The Witcher meets Bleach. World full of monsters, demons, mythical creatures, and these hunter guilds that go from one city to the next to get paid to deal with whatever creature is plaguing that city that day. The Kickstarter is just Black Spartans manga chapter 2. You can get other content, so other indie creators on there. I got some pretty cool posters that you can get on there as well. So wide range of perks. And you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Black Spartans Manga, or on my website, blackspartansmanga.com.
Awesome. Everybody out there, I'm going to drop those links again in the comments section before we get off the show tonight. And so I hope that you will go support, if you're listening to this on the podcast, that both of these projects should be still going by the time the podcast is up, unless they cancel them for some reason, and they're not going to because they're well on their way of making goal. And then, sorry, I'm copying and pasting links as I'm trying to talk. So go support these projects. Both sound amazing. We are going to be back next week. Again, with Drew from Storyworks, my friend Drew. He has a new sci-fi anthology coming out, so we'll be here right again on Thursday night, talking with Drew and some of his writers from that series. So I can't wait for that. Guys, again, if you're out there paying attention, I'm going to put both these links in the show notes for the podcast also, so that podcast listeners know right where to find these projects and can easily access them. Both just awesome projects, and I can't wait to see where you guys go next with both of these things. It's amazing.
Yeah. Real quick, Brett, didn't you just do, what was it, Immortals or Immortalis?
Immortalis, yeah. It was part of the Nightfall campaign, and so that just wrapped up today. And so we are breathing a sigh of relief. I mean, it funded really well, but it just kind of drags, and it's It was a fun thing to do. Issue 0 is part of the Nightfall campaign, and look for more of Immortalis coming down the road. from Wingless Comics.
That's what's up. It looks really dope. I'm obviously with my Greek mythology love. Yep. I like all of that Roman stuff as well. So I'm excited about that.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to have you guys see more. I'm excited about it too. Yeah, more coming soon from that. Guys, Brandon, David, thank you so much for being here tonight. It's been great getting to know you guys better, getting to know your projects better. I hope everybody out there again goes checks out these projects and backs them. David, thank you for just popping in the DMs and being like, hey, this was a great evening.
Yeah, definitely appreciate that, because that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Everybody out there. Everybody out there, thanks for watching. Thanks for all the questions and comments in the comment sections, and we will catch you next week.
All right. Peace.
Peace.